So you have a new job and you've left behind your old 401k. But the $1 million question is, what the heck do you do with it? We're breaking that all down today. You don't want to miss today's episode. If it's your first time here, my name is John Boyd. I'm a certified financial planner. I'm the founder and lead wealth advisor at Modern Wealth. That's modern spelled with no vowels wealth. We're a fiduciary fee-only financial planning firm located in Scottsdale, Arizona, but we serve clients all over the country. And I'm so glad that you're here today because we got a good one for you. Breaking down what the heck you should do with your old 401k, 403b, TSP plan, whatever it is, any old employer retirement plan. We're going to break down what the heck you can do with it and what your options are and what you should do. Because ultimately, it's a little bit more complex than just, rolling it into an IRA or moving it to your current plan or leaving it as it is, right? So we're going to give you all the information that you need to make an informed decision. So let's go over your options. Option number one, and this is probably the most obvious option, and it's probably the worst option. So let's just go ahead and get this guy out the way right now, is you can go ahead and cash out your 401k. You can call them up, request a check, and just say, hey, send that thing to my house. I want to go shopping with that money. I want to go put a down payment on a house with that money. You are more than welcome to do that, but just keep in mind, you are going to have mandatory 20% federal tax withholding on that. You're going to be subject to ordinary income tax on the federal and state level. And then if you are below 59.5, you will incur an additional 10% penalty for withdrawing prior to 59.5. Doing that is going to absolutely not only cause you to incur a boatload of taxes, but it's also going to kill years of compound growth, right? I'm not going to sit here and pull up one of those, calculators that tells you that, if you would have left it in today, you could have had $1 bajillion in 30 years, right? You already know that. So understand that you are going to crush years of investment returns, but just cashing it out and doing whatever you please with it. Now, if you are prior to 59.5 and you are looking to actually tap that 401k and actually spend money on it, there are ways that you can do that, right? A 79T election is one way that you can do it. But, that's a little bit more complex, and that's an entirely separate episode in itself. But option number one, you can cash it out. Bottom line, super tax inefficient, probably not your best decision, but you can do it if you need to, right? And there's certainly certain exceptions where this could potentially make sense depending on your personal liquidity situation, and on top of that, what your tax bracket is. Second option is that you could leave the 401k as is. You can leave it in place. Now, this isn't necessarily the worst idea depending on the plan that you have, right? If you have a really killer plan, you love the investment choices that are there, and you want to keep it as is, go for it. Leave it as is. The only thing to keep in mind is that often folks, because again, statistics show that people are leaving their jobs at a faster clip, right? People are not settling anymore. People change jobs rather frequently. And as a result, people are starting to stack up 401k plans left and right. So just keep that in mind. If you want to leave it as is and just leave it alone, that's totally cool. But just keep in mind that you need to keep track of your 401ks. Something else to keep in mind. If you have employer stock in that 401k, not super common, but it can happen. If you have employer stock in that 401k and it has significant appreciation, you are eligible for what is called net unrealized appreciation, or NUA. You can take advantage of it. Now, what NUA allows you to do is it allows you to take that position out of the 401k and pay income tax on only the basis of the stock position. So let me explain why that might be really, really powerful to you. Let's say that you had an old 401k, they gave you stock, or you purchased stock in the company, and as a result, you have, $100,000 in company stock in your 401k. Now, let's say that that stock has just gone to the moon over the last 10 years. And the basis, the acquisition price of that stock, how much you actually paid for it, is maybe only $10,000. So you only paid $10,000, but now it's worth $100,000, right? That's a $90,000 gain. What NUA allows you to do is, if you were to just take that stock, pull it right out of the 401k and put it into a brokerage account. If you were to do that and to take advantage of NUA, you would only report ordinary income tax on your acquisition price of $10,000. Even though you took out a $100,000 position, you're only going to pay ordinary income tax on that $10,000 basis. Really, really, really powerful, extremely powerful strategy. There's more to it. And again, I don't want to make this episode dedicated to NUA, but you get the idea. If you have an old 401k plan, you like your investment menu, or you have a situation like NUA present, if you were to just roll that plan out of there, you could potentially lose the ability to take advantage of NUA if you weren't aware of it. I've seen that happen a lot. So keep that in mind. Option number 3 is that you can go ahead and roll the old 401k to your new 401k at your new job, right? Relatively straightforward. Again, nothing too exotic there. Kind of same things that you need to be aware of, right? If you have NUA, if you have certain investments at the old plan that you really, really like, that you want to preserve, right? Maybe it doesn't make sense to roll over, but maybe it does. So again, keep that in mind. Where I've seen this kind of play out as well is, in situations where maybe somebody is in a really bad spot. They maybe need to create a 401k loan. Again, not super ideal. Their old 401k plan, they're no longer there, so they can't borrow against their 401k anymore. But if they were to roll their old 401k into their new 401k plan that is eligible for a 401k loan, then they're eligible to go ahead and tap that 401k for a loan. Again, not super ideal. It's not like I'm out here recommending 401k loans to people, but life happens, bad things happen. People fall into cash crunches, and that can be a way that you can create capital without incurring a bunch of taxes. Option number 4, and this is probably the one that a lot of folks tend to lean on or think of, is to roll it into an IRA. Now, if you roll it into an IRA, here's the mechanics of how that works. What you're going to have to do is you're going to have to go to a brokerage firm, and you are going to have to open up an IRA. Okay. If you have a 401k with Roth money in it and pre-tax money in it, you're going to have to open up a Roth IRA and just a standard traditional IRA, or what is called a rollover IRA. So you might have to open up 2 accounts. Once you've opened up those accounts, you are going to go ahead and call up your old 401k custodian, right? Let's say that's a company that rhymes with Vanguard, right? I'm not going to say their exact name, but you get the idea, right? You know who I'm talking about. You might have to call them up, request that they send a check to the custodian or the firm who holds your new IRAs that you just opened up. Super antiquated. I wish there was like an electronic way to do it, but that's the way that you have to move over a 401k or initiate a rollover. By doing that, it's completely tax-free. So it isn't a taxable event. You're preserving the tax status of the account. And on top of that, the big reason why people like doing it is that now the entire investment universe is at your disposal, right? If you want to find a way to invest in a private real estate strategy, you can do that within an IRA. If you want to just invest in, ETFs, mutual funds, individual stocks, options, whatever it may be, you can do that within your IRA, right? Most 401k plans, you're going to be limited to a relatively restrictive menu. Now, if the stars align and that makes sense to do, that can be an incredibly favorable route to go down. To be very candid, generally speaking, that's the preferred route that I'd like to go down for clients, right? Is to create that flexibility within the IRA. But it doesn't always make sense. Here's a couple examples. Number one, we already kind of discussed it, the NUA situation. If you have net unrealized appreciation of a company stock, moving that stock into an IRA is going to completely screw you over in ever taking advantage of NUA. The second big one is that if a backdoor Roth IRA strategy is part of the savings plan, this could screw that up as well. Now, without diving into a lesson on the backdoor Roth IRA, if you have, let's say, $500,000 in an IRA and you try to do a backdoor Roth conversion because you make too much to contribute to a traditional Roth, well, aggregator rules apply. Now only a very teeny, minuscule portion of your backdoor Roth conversion is going to be considered tax-free. The majority of it is going to be taxable. So by rolling an old 401k into an IRA, now your backdoor IRA plans can be in jeopardy. And that might not be super ideal if that is a critical part of your saving strategy. Now, for some people, it's not a huge part of their saving strategy, right? It's not the end of the world, and they're totally cool rolling it into an IRA and saving in different avenues. But again, you need to be aware of that. Other factors to keep in mind, and this, to be very candid, right? We probably don't have a lot of folks that are, over 70 listening to this podcast, but hey, if you are, this one's for you. So if you are still working and you're over RMD age, you can potentially delay taking RMDs from your 401k if you are still working, right? You can't do that with an IRA. Really, really important to keep in mind. Also keep in mind the rule of 55. So if you just turned 55 and you have an eligible plan, right? Not all 401ks, 403bs, etc. have this feature. It has to be built into the plan, but some plans allow for penalty-free distributions at 55, right? That's a few years earlier than 59 and a half. So you can go ahead and retire at 55, let's say, start drawing down your 401k and only have to pay ordinary income tax, no penalty. If you move that money to an IRA and you had a rule of 55 eligible plan, well, now you're screwed, right? Now you can't take advantage of that benefit. Finally, also keep in mind that IRAs and 401ks, depending on the state that you live in, are all going to have different creditor protections. Generally speaking, 401ks have a little bit more creditor protections versus an IRA, right? And again, every state is going to be different. But again, keep that in mind. Some folks, if you are ultra paranoid of litigation, right? And I've worked with people like this, right? I mean, they lose sleep at night thinking of a lawsuit happening, right? And they do everything that they can to create asset protection in their financial plan. If that's you, then maybe keeping it in the employer-sponsored plan makes sense because generally speaking, you have a little bit better creditor protection in the event of a lawsuit. So there you have it, guys. Those are the different paths that you can take with your 401k, 403b, TSP, whatever it may be after you leave your job. Sometimes having a lot of options can make it even harder. So if you feel overwhelmed after having this discussion, reach out to us. www.modernwealth.com. That's modern spelled with no vowels, wealth.com. We'd love to help you out. Hopefully you learned a thing or two. We'll see you next time.